Welcome to Life After BIZ, what no one tells you. And this is where we explore the real stories and journeys of our NUS Business alumni after the graduation. I'm your host, Pranati Trivedi from the MSc Management class of 2025. And today we're joined by a very special guest, Evan Heng, who's the youngest Singaporean to have featured in the Forbes 30 Under 30 Asia list in 2024 and Prestige 40 Under 40 list in 2025. He's the founder and CEO of Zenith Learning Group, one of Singapore's fastest and most widespread out education groups. So for some of you tuning in, especially our BBA students, this will be a very familiar face for you. You may have even attended some Zenith classes when you were preparing for your A-levels. So this is definitely a very special episode. Evan, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's throw some statistics for the audience to really grasp how inspiring your story is. So you started Zenith when you were still serving your national service, and you've then grown it to impacting about 7,000 students annually, and now you lead a team that delivers impact to more than 20% of Singapore's JC population. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so just to correct you a bit, I actually started my company the day I ORD'd from national service. Literally, I booked out of camp. I went straight to the CBD and I incorporated the company. So that was May 2019, literally 3 weeks before I started in NUS. So I remember like attending orientation camp. I remember like going for all the different activities like reg, as well as like O week or even my hall orientation camps while starting the company. So it's been about a good 6.5 years since we started. Originally, it was just me and a co-founder I had. And now we have built up to about more than 100 employees. Currently, we have about 14 locations in Singapore. And we serve more than 20% of all students in junior colleges in Singapore every single year, and even more in secondary school and primary school.
Wow, that is stupendous, really phenomenal. So tell us, what sparked some interest in teaching for you, and how did you get started on this journey essentially?
Yeah, so I think it's quite interesting because teaching was never really a intentional choice for me. It was more of an accidental choice. When I was in national service, I had a lot of free time because I got injured. I tore my hamstring. I basically was given a desk job. So I will book out every day at like 6 p.m. I'll be free on the weekends, and I didn't really have a lot to do. So what I decided was, since I had a lot of time, I must as well start teaching. So I started teaching just to pass time because I found a lot of fulfillment in it. So I was teaching primarily my juniors. So these were juniors that I knew back in junior college. And then when I went into army, they were in their graduating year. So I just started teaching them out of passion. And then after the first year, I realized I liked it a lot. They referred friends, so I started teaching in the second year. And by the time I finished my army, I had more than like 80 students.
Oh, wow.
So that's actually how I decided that, you know what, maybe this isn't just like a passion project.
Right.
It's something that I can actually turn into a full-time career.
Wow, okay. And you were initially slated to study geography at UCL.
Yep.
This was more like a stopgap arrangement, like you said.
Yes.
So what led to the change in decision? Instead, you decided to choose to stay in Singapore, invest all your savings in Zenith. So when you were at the crossroads, what was going through your mind? Because either road could have led to some completely different reality.
Yeah, so it was always my dream since young to actually study in the UK. So while I was in national service, I applied to my UK universities. Always wanted to study in London. So I applied for UCL, LSE, King's, and got into the courses that I wanted to get in. And at that point, I did realize that if I wanted to go, either I had to take a scholarship or I had to save up at least a six-figure sum in order to go.
Yes.
So thankfully, actually, teaching tuition on the side and also doing some investments on the side helped me to actually save up the full amount by the time I finished my army. And I guess at that point, right, I had the financial means to go. But what really led me to stay in Singapore were three main reasons. Number one, I felt that I had a lot of students already at that point. And if I were to go to the UK, that would be in August 2019, I would have to abandon them per se, right before their exams. And I felt like the moral conscience of me couldn't bear like to do that to them. So I decided to actually stay primarily in order to support my students all the way. And then the second reason was the fear of regret. Because if I had stayed in Singapore and things don't turn out well, I could always just go back to the UK. But then if I went to the UK, I would never know how Singapore could turn out. So I decided to go with the reversible option.
Correct.
And I guess last but not least, it's always about like what is the end goal of university, right? Because if I go to university, the goal is to get a good job, and to get a good job meaning high income, good work-life balance, a lot of like satisfaction, high impact. But I realized that what I was already doing back then, like with tuition and teaching, already helped me to achieve all of those things. So I realized why go through the super long path trying to find something that I technically already have.
Correct.
So I guess that's why I decided to stay in Singapore. A combination of these three reasons.
Wow, so it's a very well thought out process.
Yeah, I was surprisingly quite, not to toot my own horn, I felt like it was quite a mature decision for a 21-year-old.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
especially when everyone is always more enticed by going abroad, starting
Yeah.
your own life. So definitely this is the more noble option, but it takes a while for you to really get into that.
Yeah.
Well, that's great to hear, actually. So what was your mindset like balancing, establishing this business now, turning it from a passion project to an actual business, and your other lifestyle choices, university, you just came out of national service as well. So what was that entire thing like?
Yeah, I think for me, my mentality, the main thing I would say defined my entire work philosophy was that I had to really throw myself 100% all in to the company. Because in my head, if I only gave it 50%, let's just say I gave it 50% on school and 50% on work, then how will I ever be able to compete against someone else who's giving the 100%?
Right.
So for me, I always had this mindset that I had to commit 100% to one thing rather than trying to juggle a lot of different things.
Correct.
So I really threw myself 100% into work. I still remember like 2019, 20, 21, I was spending probably 120 hours a week working.
Wow. Okay.
My days would start at like 8 a.m. It'll go all the way until 4 a.m. And it was like 7 days a week without fail.
Right.
So of course now life is a lot better because I've been able to build a team that I trust a lot, and I can confidently delegate work to. But back then it was really, really very tough. But I guess that's the trade-off that founders need to make, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're not going to put in the hard work, then someone else will.
Okay, let's talk more about the business now. So the education sector is really competitive in Singapore. So in your opinion, having done 6 years in this industry now, officially, what makes you think Zenith stands out from the others?
Yeah, I like to split it into two different buckets, right? I think one of the main reasons why we've been able to be so successful is simply because we have the best teachers. Because ultimately, who has the best product is based on who has the best teachers, because the teachers are the one conducting all the lessons. The teachers are ultimately being responsible for the child's success. And we have been able to attract the best teachers and retain them by really making sure that the entire compensation package is the most attractive by far in the entire industry. So on average, our teachers are making a moderate 5-figure sum every single month.
Wow.
And on top of just paying them extremely well, it comes with a lot of other benefits, such as we have unlimited leave policy, we have company paid holidays. For example, we're bringing everyone to Japan at the end of the year.
Lovely.
We give every employee's stock in the company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
So
great.
it gives them a piece of ownership, and we also give them dividends based on their ownership. So we have a lot of these different benefits in order to ensure that they feel like they are being properly taken care of.
Right.
So my philosophy has always been build a company that I would want to be loyal to if I were to be an employee instead of an employer.
Right.
And because of that, while all of my competitors have a lot of problems in terms of employee turnover, the retention rate for my company for teachers is actually nearly 100%.
Wow.
So we barely have any teachers actually voluntarily leaving, especially any teacher that has been with us for at least a year. We haven't seen any instances of them leaving because what we've been able to do is really compensate them better than everyone else in the industry. And I think most importantly, we use a commission-based structure. So teachers are highly motivated in order to deliver to their students, because at the end of the day, the more students they have, the more they earn. So they are really, the incentives are aligned, and they're willing to really go above and beyond for their students. And then the second bucket would be we are very value-centric in terms of the product that we deliver. So before we came into the industry, it used to be very one-dimensional in terms of product. You attend a lesson every week for 2 hours, and then you go home and then repeat every single week. But what we wanted to do is really to design a multi-dimensional product that really delivered value in every single aspect. So in terms of the academic aspect, beyond just the 2 hours of lessons you have every week, we have a online learning platform that we have invested over 7 figures in. We have unlimited consultations offered by the teachers, extra lessons, 24/7 WhatsApp support. So any way that the teacher can support them throughout the entire week, they get. And hence that allows them to really feel very confident when they are trying to study and get better in the subject.
Right.
Beyond just the academics, what we, I guess, were the pioneers of is really two more aspects, which is number one, the welfare, and number two, the holistical support. So when it comes to welfare, we actually spend a lot of time to ensure that the well-being of the students is well taken care of. So for example, this year alone, we have brought our students to Universal Studios, Adventure Cove.
Wow.
We have booked out the cinemas multiple times. Just 2 weeks ago, we booked out the entire Hai Di Lao to bring our graduating class.
Oh, lovely.
So we are always organizing a lot of events for the students in order to ensure their welfare is being taken care of. On a monthly basis, we actually give our teachers an allowance to actually buy their students' welfare. So things like acai bowls, Starbucks, Wagyu bowls even, so that when the students come for class, they have something to be excited for.
Right.
And then if you were to walk into our centers, where the students come in on a weekly basis, you'll see that it's stocked with unlimited food, unlimited drinks, a study area. So the students really feel like they're being well taken care of.
Right.
And I guess that kind of experience is not something that they had ever experienced before at any other center.
Correct.
And it really led us to stand out.
Right.
And then in terms of holistical support, what we do is we provide university counseling, we do coding boot camps, we assist the student in not only trying to figure out what they want to do long term for a career, but also helping them build a portfolio in order to give them a significant edge over all of their peers. So I think being very value-centric, what it has allowed us to do is really give us a product that is really standing above the rest, especially when all of our competitors are just hyper-focused on just the studies. And people have asked us before is, by trying to focus on too many things, does it take away from the studies? I think what I always like to say is, at the end of the day, we're still getting the students the results. Much better than everyone else, in fact. But on top of that, we're doing so much more from them. And then when it comes to a price point, we're actually priced very competitively, such that a lot of our customers feel like they're getting so much more for the same price or even a cheaper amount.
Right. I think that's a really very different approach, like you mentioned, compared to other competitors, because in both aspects, especially because there was a recent report about the salaries of teachers in Singapore and very long working hours.
Yeah.
So I think it's really a good thing that you, from the outset, really recognize the importance of the educators and giving them so much at their and also with the students, I think it's really good because academics in general is a really tough thing and you have to really prepare for it. Long hours, there's lots of pressure, you've got peer pressure, family pressure. So to really recognize that mental wellness is equally important when you're taking the test, I think is really good. So I want to know what inspired you to be so value-centric. Was it during your early days when you were just, imparting basic lessons to your juniors? When was the shift that you realized that this is the gap that exists currently in the market?
Yeah, I think very early on when I was doing private tutoring, so this was like 1-to-1, 1-to-2, or like 1-to-4, like kind of group classes. This was like 2017 and 18 while I was still in army, right? What I realized was a lot of the students were actually referring friends.
Right.
They were like begging their friends to come just because they felt that I was treating them well. Because I still remember I used to teach in my dining room, and like whenever they were hungry, I'll say, no worries, I'll just order food for you. And then it became so often that it just became a weekly thing, whereas they just decided, you know what, we're just gonna come for lesson without having eat dinner because Evan will buy us dinner.
Right.
And then every week I'll just commit like, okay, if I'm charging them like $60 per lesson, I'll commit like $8 to buy them dinner. And it wasn't very intentional in the sense that, okay, I'm explicitly trying to use this as a marketing ploy.
Correct.
It was just because I cared genuinely for them. And I realized that through that process, that all you have to do is be very value-centric. You just have to put the customer first and magically it will grow.
Right.
So I think since day one, I've never ever really been very profit-oriented. It has always been the mentality of focus on value and the money will come.
Right. That's lovely to hear. That is lovely to hear. So what are some of the challenges early on when you were scaling from one center to multiple centers in Singapore? Can you shed some light on that?
I think in general, for education companies in Singapore, they have two main blockers, which is real estate and teachers. Because everyone wants to find the best real estate, the one right beside an MRT next to a school, but has a low per square foot. But at the same time, people don't want to pay a high price, right? And at the same time, they want to get the best teachers, but they don't want to have too much fixed costs. Because if you give them too much of a fixed cost, too high of a fixed salary, then it takes a lot of time for them to build up the student numbers in order for it to be profitable. And especially for a new company, it's pretty difficult because you don't have a lot of funds at the start. So I guess for these two particular blockers, right, what was our strategy in order to overcome? It was really just be very patient. I think what we chose to do is we decided to actually prioritize quality control. Since quality control is going to be the major issue if you decide to take in lousier teachers or lousier centers. So a lot of people say, hey, like Evan, you grew very fast. I always tell them that we could have grown a lot faster. But we wanted to be very wary of these two major blockers that were always on the top of our mind. So we only opened our second center after COVID in 2020. Then 2021 we opened two more, so we were at 4. And 2023, I told them, okay, until we are 8, like we wanted to be very strict on hiring. We wanted to make sure that the quality control is high because any weak teacher that comes in would diminish your brand equity. It will make people think that the entire brand isn't strong. So 2023, we expanded our existing centers, but we didn't open any additional ones. And we decided to be a lot more stringent on quality control. So yeah, I think for any educator trying to start their own business, getting the right real estate and having the right teachers will always be the biggest blockers. But I think the key is just to be patient and not to try to jump the gun and try to move faster than what is actually possible.
Okay. And so you've spoken a lot about the holistic aspect about Zenith, right? And how you're trying to get in so many new features and so many new, you've got gamification also, you've got boot camps, a lot of things. So how do you infuse innovation into your business while still retaining quality? Because I assume it's a pretty tight rope and quite a fine balance to maintain.
Yeah, so I guess when it comes to education or technology, there's a lot of different aspects of the business where technology can actually help, whether it's external facing in terms of better product or whether it's internal facing when it comes to improved productivity. What we have come to realize is that educational technology can never replace the role of a teacher, especially in Singapore. In the past, we actually were very bullish on online learning. So we actually developed a primary school online learning platform. It was free of charge. It had all the core features that any student would want, such as online lessons, video on demand, as well as live stream. It had educational games. It had an AI teacher. It had the full suite of edtech features. But what we realized in Singapore is that parents didn't want online learning. There was a bit of a rejection of online learning because ultimately they didn't trust their kid with the iPad. Right? They wanted a supervisor. So they were willing to pay a lot more money for the tried, tested physical offline education. When it comes to edtech, from an external lens, right, the three main value proposition is affordability, accessibility, and adaptability. And what we realize is that Singaporeans can afford offline, Singaporeans can access online offline, because no matter where you stay in Singapore, you probably have a center 5 minutes away from you. And even though the adaptability portion is beneficial, taking the data, providing adaptive learning, giving recommendations on what the students should learn, I think parents didn't really value it so much more such that they're willing to pay more. So we realized that online learning as a core product by itself wasn't something that's very appealing in Singapore. And what we decided to do is actually turn it to an ancillary product to support our offline. So nowadays, any student that comes to a center, if they go back and they have any doubts, they have all these additional online material for them. They have the AI teachers to help them. But fundamentally, they will still want to trust their own teachers to ask questions and mark their work still. So actually nowadays, we do have an in-house tech team still. What we'll actually focus a lot on is actually in-house automation processes. So when it comes to operations, when it comes to finance, it's actually a fully automated process. So it actually has improved the productivity of the business quite a fair bit. Yeah, so I guess whenever people talk about technology and education, people always think about it from an external, like student-centric and parent-centric kind of view. But what we have come to realize is actually from an internal process and operations point of view, it actually has presented a lot of benefits as well.
Oh, okay. That's really insightful. Yeah, thanks for that. So you've spoken a lot about how you're not very profit oriented and how this has stemmed from a lot of passion. So what does delivering impact then mean to you?
I think when I was very early on in my career, I've always asked myself, right, how do you measure impact? Is there like a formula? And I guess I didn't want it to be super complicated, right? So for me, it was very simple, which is quantity times quality, right? So how many people you can help multiplied by the extent that you're able to help each individual. So for me, I think that when it comes to education, it's probably one of the most powerful tools, because while a lot of other basic necessities can help you to survive, education is the only industry that can help you to thrive.
Correct.
It's the only industry that can help you to climb the income ladder. It helps you to get a job. It helps you to create a better future for yourself, for your family, even for your community. So when it comes to education, right, I think what we believe is that if you can provide a strong education for a student, it can really empower them to go and get the career they want to pursue, earn the income that they want to achieve, and ultimately get the better life that we talked about.
Right.
So I think for me, the goal is really very simple, right? Is to teach as many students as possible and ultimately ensure that the quality of education that we're able to provide to them is not on a superficial level. It's not like a touch and go. It's not one-off, but it's to really be the partner. It's really to hold their hand, guide them all the way to the point that they achieve success. And to me, I think just because of the extent that we're able to help each individual, we are able to be one of the most impactful companies in Singapore today.
Wow, okay. That's actually really nice to hear, because you always hear stories about people thriving in strictly corporate areas, which is obviously good to hear. Everyone has their own life journey, but definitely we also need a lot of social entrepreneurs in today's day and age, especially when inequality is so prominent everywhere. So yeah, good luck for all those to come yet. Let's shift the focus a bit towards leadership, hiring, and young talent. So I read somewhere that you have a really stringent hiring process, because obviously you're trying to maintain quality, and in a sector like education, that's really important. So if I'm not mistaken, I think it's just 1 in every 20 applicants that really makes the cut and become a teacher. And you also have some really top talent from engineering firms as well, and tech firms, because you want to really scale your products. So to the young grads that are tuning into this episode, what would you say to them that you look for the most when you're hiring new talent? Is it particular skills, particular experience? What is it that you're always looking out for?
Yeah, so I think it's a myriad of different factors that we're always looking out for. I think for me, of course, when I look at a portfolio or CV, right, you have your traditional factors, such as like, do you attend a good university? Do you graduate with a high GPA? Were you a scholar? Like, you have these kind of factors, because I guess it's a mark of approval already, right? Because if you have achieved those things, it gives credibility. So the more credible you seem, then the more likely you are to be able to thrive in our environment. But I guess at the same time, right, what I typically look out for, especially when it comes to teachers, it's a lot of different factors, such as soft skills. Because I guess I have to split it up into two different aspects, right? Because for the teachers themselves, they are the product, and we believe that the soft skills in the ability of interacting with the kids, being able to show confidence in public speaking, these factors will then determine their ability to really excel, especially in the environment that we are able to put them in. At the same time, beyond just soft skills, right, we're also looking for confidence. We're also looking for the right kind of mentality, in terms of like a hustle mentality. We want people who are excited to grow, excited to learn, excited to really build something bigger than what they are currently doing. I think because we are a very ambitious company, and we want to really make waves in the industry. We don't want someone who's just ready to settle, correct? We don't want someone who's just trying to find a comfortable company for them to just enjoy life, but we really want people who have a very like go-getter kind of mentality, and want to seize every single opportunity and achieve more than what they have already achieved. I think having that level of ambition and that rigor in order to achieve it is very important to me.
Right. So self-starters, enthusiasm, really important.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's also important because in startups such as yours, which are very fast-paced, growing, you really need such talents,
Yeah.
right? So what is your advice to current students and young grads who are on the brink of job seeking? What do you think they should really be maximizing, or some tips that could help them?
Yeah, I think a lot of people always prioritize like getting a good GPA, try and secure a good internship. But the reality is, even when you're in the top 1%, you need to remember that top 1% still has like hundreds or even thousands of people that you're competing against. So I feel like it's very important for you to have a more diverse portfolio. I think to make yourself a lot more interesting, to get yourself to be a lot more sociable, especially when you have those like conversations with your interviewer or even at networking events. Like for me, like I will I will of course take note of people who have a good portfolio, but the ones that I remember at the end of the day are the interesting ones. People who have a story to tell, people who have like genuine kind of interest that makes them very distinct from other people.
Correct. Okay, that's great. And what about young entrepreneurs or anyone who's interested in entrepreneurship? What would you give them in terms of pearls of wisdom and also certain caution words where they're venturing out?
I have a very contrarian view.
Okay.
I know, okay, if I were to go back and look at all the entrepreneurs that have started businesses like from 2019 all the way to now, and I've met a lot of them along the way, off the top of my head, I would say that only 4 or 5 of the people that I've met today, I would consider them successful.
Oh, okay.
And the irony is that in Singapore, success means you have built maybe an 8-figure business, compared to maybe in the US where success means a 9-figure or even a $1 billion business, right? And when people look at successful entrepreneurs, there's a lot of survivor biasness. Whereas they look at me and say, wow, this guy, he just graduated university last year. He built a business that's doing 7 figures every single month. But for every one person like me, and I would like to reiterate that I'm very blessed and fortunate, and like things have worked out very well for me, met the right people along the way to get to where I am today. But for every one of me, there are probably 99 others that have failed. And when we look at the average successful entrepreneur, most of them actually start their companies in their 30s. So I'll say that as much as there are a lot of like inspirational stories about, for example, you see Mark Zuckerberg quitting Harvard to start Facebook. You have a lot of different stories about all these different people that have gone on to do great things, right? But for every one of them, they are like, I won't even say 99, they're probably like 999 that have failed. So I'll say that it's very important that if you really want to throw yourself into entrepreneurship, right? I'm not trying to say like have a mentality where you're already like self-defeating, but failure is the norm. So you need to anticipate and expect that failure is the norm.
Yes.
And you need to have the right mentality of either you win or you learn.
Yeah.
And learning throughout the entire process is honestly the reward in itself. Like your first startup might not succeed, and then you try to go on to a new one, your second startup might not succeed. But all this knowledge, all this network that you have built, everything that you have gained in the process will then empower you to actually succeed down the road.
Okay.
So I always like to recommend that if you are a student and you want to do a startup, it might be better for you to go to a corporate job first, wait it out a bit, and start it a bit later on. But at the same time, there isn't any harm because while you're still a student, you have no burden and debt. So it's actually a good time as well. But if you really want to throw yourself into it, then you must really be able to anticipate and be able to embrace failure. Yeah, I always like to think that the number one success characteristic I see amongst successful founders is that they're able to embrace failure and they are able to find comfort in discomfort. Yeah.
Okay, that's some very sound practical advice. I'm really glad to hear you say that there's always time even later on to do it and get some more experience, because like you said, oftentimes we have those one story hits where they go like, just go all in, do whatever you want, and while that might work out, it's a really low probability, so it's always good to err on the side of caution.
Yeah, I mean, it always looks very sexy, right? Like when you go at exited founders, but I think people always forget. Sorry, people don't forget. People always fail to realize the blood, sweat, and tears, throughout the decade that took them to build.
Exactly. So stay in school, everyone. So let's focus a little bit back on your backstory.
Yeah.
So how was the experience being a BBA student? What was something that, how did it help you in terms of leadership, business acumen, finding your purpose? Let's talk a little bit about that.
It's gonna be edited out. I think how attending NUS has allowed me to really succeed in my career is it has provided me a network of entrepreneurs and like-minded individuals that has really allowed me to grow. And when I talk about like this network, right, it's not just people that I can like partner with in order to grow the business, but it can even just be like-minded friends. Like people that that will lend a listening ear, people that are able to share a different perspective to really not only like ground me, but also allow me to think rationally or even think from a more innovative standpoint, because I'm able to actually take all these opinions and really look at every single problem in a different way. So I think like NUS really has the best collection of the smartest and the most knowledgeable and mature individuals, and it's just being in NUS has allowed me to really tap into this network. And like even till today, like the people that I met in NUS are people that I value for life, and and are people that I feel like I'll be friends with for life. In fact, like right now I stay with 3 friends. Like 2 of them I met in NUS. In NUS Business School. One is another one is an entrepreneur running a very big company. Another one is actually a quite famous influencer who also like runs a VC on the side. And these were people that I met in NUS, and even till today, anytime I have a problem, they are here. They will be around to actually provide me a listening ear. They're always there to help me. So I feel like getting these kind of connections in NUS is not something that you'll be able to find anywhere else in Singapore.
Wow, it's a very dynamic room to surround yourself with. Yeah. Okay, great. So a little bit about your journey then as an entrepreneur. You mentioned that very early on you developed a mindset of not seeing failures and mistakes as just that, but rather as learning lessons and stepping stones. So what were some of the ups and downs that you faced in the entire journey until now?
Yeah, so the first big one was very early on. My co-founder actually left. Like 2 months after I started the business, because he also had an offer to go study in the UK, and he decided to actually leave to go instead of staying in Singapore.
I see.
Yeah, so I'm still friends with him till today, and he's like, regrets. But I think like back then it was very hard for me, because I basically had to depend on myself. But I would say that I'm very, very fortunate, because out of the first 10 employees that I hired, 9 of them are still with the company today. And all of them have like risen up to be in leadership positions. So a lot of them were like in university, some like pre-university. And like I think I was very blessed. I just met a lot of capable people that had the same growth mentality as I did back then. And they were very responsible for building the company to what it is today, as much as I have been. So that was the first major challenge I had. And then I think second major one was COVID. Of course, like it suddenly just appeared out of nowhere. I think luckily, even though we had to go completely online, we were very blessed because we are a very young team. So we knew how to adapt to technology very well, as compared to our competitors. A lot of them are very old. So a lot of them didn't even know how to like create a Zoom account. So it was very difficult for them. But for us, even though COVID was tough because we were still paying rent in all of our physical locations, and a lot of our students, they didn't really like online learning, but we kind of made it work. At the same time, we were very fortunate because Singapore government gave us a lot of subsidies when it came to rent. So at the end of the day, we ended up not paying for any of our rent. So if it wasn't for the Singapore government, I think we would have actually had a lot of financial trouble. But luckily, we had the subsidy, so it all went quite well. So I think COVID was a big scare, but it actually helped set us up for the long term, because during COVID, we actually offered a program where if you sign up for one subject, you'll get every single subject for free. So it actually, you got like 4 times the value for the price of one. And then the moment circuit breaker ended, a lot of the students that joined us for the program actually decided to come for offline lessons. So as much as it seemed like a major roadblock back then, it actually turned out to be a major blessing in disguise.
Wow, okay. So definitely more ups than downs, but that's always great to hear.
And at those moments, it felt like downs, but I feel like what my own history has taught me is that everything happens for a reason, and you just have to like find the silver lining, and there's no point living in with regrets.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So now turning the lens towards the future, you mentioned wanting to, scale into Southeast Asia as a whole. So what are your ambitions? What's that looking like? What are some of the things that you have in the pipeline?
Yeah, so I think the next few years will be quite exciting. We have a lot of different strategies and areas for growth, right? So whether it's inorganic growth through M&A, whether it's expanding into new markets, for example, like last year we just expanded into the primary school market, or alternatively overseas expansion. I feel like there are a lot of different pathways that we're exploring, but I think what's very important for us is to actually be very patient and always ask ourselves, what is the low-hanging fruit? How do we focus and prioritize rather than trying to do everything at once? So as much as we have 6 different areas that we want to actually target, we're always asking ourselves, what do we want to focus on first, rather than trying to spread our resources too thin. So at least for us, like for example, this year, I think what we have focused on is actually relaunch our IP department. So that's integrated program. And next year, what we're trying to do is actually see whether overseas is the right move, or alternatively, we might want to double down into a different division in Singapore.
Oh, wow. Okay. That sounds very promising, actually. So good luck for what's about to come for you. So what advice would you give to young students and young grads to keep themselves grounded while dealing to the different challenges of life? Because you yourself said that you really practice that into implementation.
I guess more unconventional advice, but while you're still in university, just have fun lah. Enjoy yourself as much as you can. I think a lot of my friends and I all agree, right? The moment we finish university and then we go into the corporate world, you're going to be grinding for the next 25, 30 years, right? And you're going to like miss university because it was the best time of your life. So enjoy university as much as you can. It's still important to hustle and really grind it out, but at the same time, remember to have fun lah. I think just putting yourself in the rat race and just going full steam ahead without really taking the time to enjoy yourself, enjoy your hobbies, explore your interests is a shame lah. Yeah, so really just enjoy university while you can. Get a girlfriend if you can. Travel overseas with your friends as much as possible, and really live life to the fullest before you go to the corporate world and realize that after university, life gets a lot tougher, and a lot of the fulfillment you had and a lot of the free time that you had in university to really explore everything you want to explore, you may not have anymore. So really just make the most out of university.
Right. I think that's going to be some of the viewers' favorite advice so far. That's really nice to hear, actually. Thank you so much for that. So in general now, thank you so much for sharing your story and insights, Evan. I think it's been very clear to me and to everyone who's going to watch this episode that you've really managed to incorporate passion, purpose, and also business acumen. And at the end of the day, you're really doing something that's providing a lot of impact in the education sector of Singapore. So that's something that's really huge. So thank you so much for that. And to all our viewers, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. I hope you had a lovely time listening to Evan's stories and all his pearls of wisdom. If you want to watch the entire episode, I highly recommend checking NUS Business School's YouTube channel and also NUS BIZalum's Instagram. And you'll be able to like, share, and comment on all of these videos and share it with your friends. And stay tuned for the next episode for some more insights into alumni journeys. Thank you.